As an immigrant, do you need a credit card? In this video, I will be talking about whether or not an immigrant coming to Canada will need a credit card. Now, for me personally, when I first came to Canada, I was offered a credit card very simply. Like, I went to the bank just to open an account and they were like, "Do you want a credit card?" And I was like, no. And I've been offered credit cards back in my home country and I've always said no because I always heard of credit card and it's always something negative where they always talk about persons who are in credit card debt and how credit card is just not the best way to go about your finances. So because of that reason, I refused to get a credit card. Now, after 1 year of living in Canada, what I got to realize is that a credit card is actually very, very essential. Where what I've learned is that without a credit card, you cannot even rent an apartment. Now, I was lucky that the first apartment that I got and pretty much the first set of housing that I got when I first came to Canada, they considered that I was a student and they did not ask me for a credit score. However, after I told them I've been in Canada for 1 year and want to move, they were like, "Let us see your credit score." And I'm like, "A credit score?" I haven't been building any credit. And that is when I got to see the importance of building credit. And therefore, I decided, okay, now it's time to figure out what this whole credit card and this whole credit score and credit history is all about. And that is when I got to really learn how credit cards work. And the important thing to note when you're moving to Canada, or even if you're here as an international student, and you will be here more than 6 months, and you won't get a credit card if you're here less than 6 months. But once you're here more than 6 months, you can get a credit card. So therefore, I highly recommend that everyone that will be here more than 6 months need to apply for a credit card and get a credit card. Now, the importance of a credit card is that one, a credit card is what is used just to be able to rent an apartment. And it's not the credit card that is the real thing, but it's really a credit score. But the thing is, your credit score won't continue to build and you won't have a credit history if you don't use a credit card on a regular basis. And the only way that you can really build a credit score and have a credit history is if you are continuously spending money, borrowing money, spending money, and things like that. So therefore, I highly, highly, highly recommend that every person who moves to Canada get a credit card. So let us first talk about what is a credit card. So a credit card is a card that is given as a loan. And what it does is that it has a limit where you cannot spend over that limit. So for example, when you come to Canada in the beginning, they more than likely will not give you a credit card that is more than $500 or $1,000 in a credit limit. The reason for that is because you don't have a credit score and therefore they don't know how good or bad you are at handling money. And the thing with Canada is that they really need to know how good or bad you are with handling your money. So therefore, what they do is to give you this card that just allows you to build credit in the beginning, and then afterwards they make good decisions on whether you are a good spender or a bad spender. The thing is, without this credit card, they won't actually know whether you're a good spender or a bad spender. And if you don't have any credit score, any credit history, and they run you in at the bureau and you have nothing at all, they see that as bad history or no history at all. But no history is basically bad history because it is not even considered. So it is very, very important to build credit. Now for me, even when I went to purchase my phone, I needed a credit score. I needed a credit history because the thing you'll notice with Canada is that it is very, very credit based. What you would see is that even if you want to purchase a phone cash, you cannot purchase a phone cash in Canada. They want you to go on a plan and pay every single month. And the thing that does is that it really builds up your credit score as well. So it is still very advantageous, but when you first come here, you will be like, no, you don't want any credit card, you don't want no loan, you don't want anything related to credit, but this is a credit society, and without that credit, you cannot get a lot of things. And it's not just being able to do things that you won't necessarily need, but it's things like being able to purchase a car, being able to get an apartment. Like, those are basic things that you would need to do. So that is why getting a credit card is so important. Now, when you do get this credit card, the next thing you have to think about is the very reason why you didn't want to get a credit card in the first place. Having the ability to not overspend on the credit card. Now, when you get a credit card, the only thing that should be in your head is to say, hey, I'm getting this card to build my credit score. Now, building a credit score is a whole different story. It involves a lot of things, and building credit score is actually very difficult, in my opinion. As someone who has been seriously working on building my credit score for the last 3 years, and I just keep getting contradicting information from different financial advisors. This one tell me one thing, the next one tell me the other thing, and I keep just trying all sorts of things, and somehow I have a good credit, but I would want it to go higher. Now, the maximum credit score that you can have, I believe, is 800, and I'm at like 700 and maybe 770 or something like that. So I have like 30 more to go up, and I definitely want to increase my credit score. But once it says good, you're good to go. So the main thing is that you want to have a credit that says good. Fear, you don't want it to say fear, but when you just start a credit line, once you get a credit card, then the first thing it will have is fear. And if you use your credit card poorly, then it goes down and it gives you a poor credit. But if you get that credit card and you use it properly, then your credit score will increase. Now, with knowing about credit cards, I find it very complicated. So the first thing is that when you get a credit limit, and for an immigrant, let's say you get $1,000, $2,000, and if you have a credit history from your home country, I highly recommend that you get a printout of it and bring it to Canada with you. This will help you to get a higher credit score. But I do not have any. I do have credit history back in Jamaica, but I didn't see the need to worry about getting that information. It wasn't that important. I was like, I'll start from scratch. I'm fine with that. If you don't want to start from scratch, then get a printout of all your credit information and bring them to Canada with you. Now, with credit, with the credit score and all these things, the first thing you need to know is you cannot use more than 30% of your credit limit. So this is very difficult when you just come to Canada and your credit limit is $500. But for this video, I'm going to say your credit limit is $1,000 to make it way more simple. With a credit amount of $1,000, what it means is that you can only use a maximum of $300. So because I was doing this video, I just decided, you know what, it is time to get serious about this credit utilization. So as a result, this is what I've done. So I've created a tracker called Credit Utilization Tracker. And basically what I've done is to write the credit utilization limit. So this is basically saying one credit card here is a credit card limit of $2,000, and you can only spend 30%, therefore. So $2,000, you can only spend 30%, so it amounts to $600. And then another one here, let's say this credit limit I estimated at $1,000. This is usually newcomers credit limits. It's either $2,000, $1,000, or $500 for newcomers. And you can go to different places to get a credit card so that you have multiple to play around with, but you don't want to exceed these numbers. And basically your total here is $1,350, which isn't bad, and quite frankly, you shouldn't be exceeding this much in expenses anyway. If you're a newcomer, you want to keep your expenses low. So for this credit utilization sheet that I quickly made, basically what I'm saying is for credit card one, every single week I set a reminder on Google Calendar. I already set the reminder and it repeats every single week, where by the end of the week I am going to total how much I spent on credit card one, how much I spent. So for example, I would come in on week one and I would say, okay, on credit card one, I would say, okay, on credit card one, I spent a total of $50 in the first week. The second week, I spent $100. And basically, I just need to look back over here on credit card one and see that the limit is $600, so I can't exceed that. So I can't just be frivolously spending. For example, for this one that is credit card three, you can see it's just $150. So if we go to credit card three, we know that, let's say we spent $100 in week one. Week two, we spent, first of all, if you notice you spend $100 in week one already, you can see your credit card limit is $150. So you have to bear that in mind, or just decide not to spend any more here. So basically for here, you cannot exceed this amount. So you spend $30 and then you have to stop. So you just have to be mindful to not go over the limits. But it's easier when your limit isn't low. But when you have like a low limit, like $150, really and truly, you buy one thing and that's $100. You buy another thing and it's close to 100. The credit limit is, you already go over this 150. So this is pretty hard to maintain. You only use credit cards to increase your credit score. So because of that, use your debit card to supplement anything that you don't have here. So if you don't have enough from the credit card to utilize, then if you need more than 1,350, then what you'll need to do is to use your debit card. So that's the easy solution for that. Yeah, so this is my little tracker. If you want to copy it, you can create it from this. But yeah, this took me not very long, probably 5 minutes it took me to create this. This is a nice tracker that I'll be using, and over time I'll let you know if it worked or I just didn't like it long term. But I think this is a very good way to track our credit utilization. You need to make sure that your credit utilization does not exceed 30% of your credit limit. So that is the first rule that you need to pay attention to. And I did not pay attention to it. And multiple times I forget to pay attention to it. And I need to really go and calculate it again, get the numbers, and do not exceed that amount in spending into a credit period. Now with credit periods, it varies. So basically they have like, it's like the beginning of the month, but then the ending is like on the 21st or sometimes even the 17th. And sometimes it's not the beginning of the month, it's like the 16th. The 16th to the 17th of the following month. I think banks vary at I tell you, this whole credit thing is just a headache. I've been really working on increasing my credit score, and I'm telling you that it has been so difficult, where I would finally get the credit score to increase, and then I'm like, how did I get the increase? And then what would happen is that it would decrease, and I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And the main thing that I learned that I always get wrong. So the thing that I tend to get wrong is that I tend to go over the credit utilization, which you shouldn't do. And the main rule as it relates to using a credit card is that you want to make sure that when you're using a credit card, you don't use more than you have in your bank account, which I don't do. But the thing is, I go over the credit utilization limit because in my head, I'm only thinking about how much money is in my bank account, not about credit utilization. Like, I don't think about it. And I wish there was something that could cut it off to say, once I reach this amount, that's it. Or I wish the credit limit is the amount that I could use. But they don't make it that simple. They make it complicated and say only 30% alone you can use if you want to build your credit score. The next thing that you need to know about credit cards is that once you have gotten the money from the card, you cannot pay it back until the bill comes in. Now, immigrants in general, Canadian immigrants, just have this tendency where they would get the credit card and they would pay it off. Once they spend some money on it, they pay the money. Spend some money, pay the money. I used to do every single week, I would pay the credit card. I have gotten in the habit now where I need to wait until the bill comes and then pay the credit card bill. So that's actually how it works. But it is a bit stressful if you are a spender and you just see like a large amount of money. You're like, this is a lot. But the main thing is that when it comes to finances, you really need to pay attention. And me saying that I need to pay attention, but only with credit utilization. It's not like I'm overspending in my bank account. But if you're doing that, don't do it. And if you are not yet in Canada and you haven't gotten the credit card as yet, but you will be getting a credit card, because I told you need to get a credit card because it is very, very important. You cannot exceed the amount that you have in your bank account. You cannot exceed that amount. You need to keep it at a proper amount. The next reason why you need a credit card is to be able to purchase a house. With purchasing a house, more than likely you are going to need a mortgage. And with that mortgage, you cannot get it without a proper credit score. So again, you need the credit score. So it is important to start building that credit score from day one. The first day you come to Canada, start building the credit score. It is vital. Highly recommend you get a credit card, because there are other loans that you can get as well that helps with your credit card. With the phone bill, it is also on the credit history as well, but it doesn't do much. You need more things to help bring the number up. The more credit that you have is actually the better your credit score will be once you do it the right way. And with credit cards, credit utilization 30%, do not exceed that. Also, do not pay the minimum balances on a credit card. That's the next tip. Do not pay the minimum balances on your credit card. Make sure that once you have a credit card, you are paying back the full amount once the bill comes. And it would be important that you track when the bill comes, but sometimes it varies and things like that. But for me, it comes to my email, not the bill, but an email to say that my statement is available, and that is how I know when my credit card is available. The next thing that I want to talk about as it relates to credit card is that credit cards is something that people here in Canada sees as nothing. And what they will do is every single person will happily offer you a credit card if, one, you make a proper salary, and two, you have a good credit score. So having a good credit score makes other people want to give you credit cards, and you will be tempted. I was tempted. I get offered a lot of credit cards, and initially I just accepted whatever came my way. But now I'm more intentional, and I only get credit cards in relation to where I purchase things. For example, I purchase things from Amazon, and more than likely you purchase things from Amazon. Now, if you purchase things from Amazon, there is a credit card that they offer, and they literally says it gives you all these perks, all these things, points that adds up, and every so often I'll get a free $10 gift card that goes towards my next Amazon purchase. So ultimately, I lose nothing from using the credit card, but I gain points. They'll also want you to increase your credit limit. Now, when do you increase your credit limit? You increase your credit limit if the 30% of that credit limit utilization amount is not enough for how much you would want to spend. So as I said about that Amazon card, if I have an Amazon card and I spend, for example, $1,000 per month on Amazon, which is a lot of money. But let's say I spend $1,000 on Amazon every single month and I can only use 30% of the credit utilization on Amazon. What that is saying is that I would have to have a credit limit of $3,000 to be able to spend $1,000 from Amazon. So if my credit limit is $1,000, I cannot be making a total of $1,000 in purchases from Amazon. Instead, my limit would be $300 and I cannot exceed $300. So therefore, increasing your credit limit in that regard would be important and beneficial to you so that you can use more of the credit card. However, if you have, for example, a $5,000 credit card limit on Amazon and you only spend $100 per month on Amazon, you have absolutely no reason to increase your credit limit. So if they offer you an increase to say you are now eligible for $7,000, you don't need it. Do not accept it. And this is where your credit score gets hit each time you ask for a credit limit increase. Now, it does go back up, but it does go down briefly. And you really don't have any reason for it to get hit because you won't need the money anyway. And we are assuming that you will not be using your Amazon credit card to pay for rent. I'm assuming you won't be doing things like that. And that is things that people in Canada get caught into. They get a credit card, the credit limit is $2,000, and they go pay rent with it. They go pay rent. With a credit card, something I should mention is that you get a cash advance, which the thing with credit card that is so horrible is that it has a very high interest rate. The interest rate on a credit card is usually 20%. 20% interest rate that is being added. So that is just a lot of money that you don't need, and you really don't need to get into that type of debt, especially if you're an immigrant. You don't want any big debt while you alone is here, more than likely trying to survive. Getting yourself in debt is not going to help your situation. That's just the truth. Anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Let me double check that and make sure I'm not telling no madness.